This neighborhood, at the time when he was growing up here in the 1930s, was on its way to becoming the richest black neighborhood in the entire world. There was more money in black hands and black-owned businesses than any place else in the world where black people lived. That's why they called the neighborhood Sweet Auburn, because they said money made Auburn Avenue sweet. And if you look down to your right there, you see those nice, big, beautiful houses. Those are Queen Anne Victorian-style homes, and they were lived in at the time by some of the folks that had a lot of that money. These folks were very successful and prosperous, upper-middle-class African-American folks. They were entrepreneurs, businessmen like store owners, shop owners, restaurant owners, professionals like doctors, lawyers, dentists, clergymen, salesmen like real estate salesmen, insurance salesmen. And they were some examples and role models for the kids here of economic success, including ML. Now down to the left there, you'll see the smaller homes across the street especially. Those houses obviously were not for upper middle class people, but they were more for working class people like, let's say, factory workers, mill workers, porters, domestics, people like that. By the way, we call those little houses down there shotgun homes. The reason they're called that is because if you ever wanted to shoot something in your backyard with your shotgun, you just open the front and back door and shoot right straight through the house without damaging anything. And the reason they're built straight back like that is because the only way you could cool them off in the summertime was to open the front and back door and let the breeze blow through there. That's what they had to do. So you had two different classes of people living right outside these children's home here when they were growing up. And that's a big deal. Back in the 1930s, little kids, around 3, 4, and 5 years old, they used to do something a little bit strange, at least by today's standards, a little bit weird. They'd come out in the morning, and they'd get up and get their breakfast and get dressed, and then they would come outside and play. They didn't have computers and TVs and things back then to keep them. Not only that, they'd come out and play with their friends, real live ones, not on MySpace or Facebook or right? And these kids, you know what? They had friends at both ends of the street, down there among the working class kids and among the upper middle class kids. They learned at a very young age that it didn't matter whether your friends had a lot of money or whether they didn't. Friends were just friends, people were just people, kids were just kids, no matter whether they were rich or not so rich. And those folks down there weren't necessarily poor, but they weren't as rich as the other kids. So that's one of the first lessons these three kids learned in this neighborhood, was that tolerance that they're so famous for, because they haven't had both classes of people right outside their front door here when they were growing up. Now all this out here, these buildings have all been restored to look just like they did when ML lived here in the 1930s. But inside, they're nice modern facilities, and everything's being used for something as much as possible. Most of them are residences. People actually live here. We rent them out to people, including the shotguns. They're really nice now. They got air conditioning and cable TV and all that. So do the nice homes down there. Rent a few of them out too. Some of them we use for offices or facilities in the park here, like meeting rooms and things. So that's what's going on out here now. Now I've got one more thing to show you before we go inside. You see right in front of us across the street over there, there's a little concrete slab in the ground over there. That's all that's left of a little grocery store that used to be over there. Something happened in that little store, which I believe was the most important thing that happened to ML in this neighborhood. Changed his life forever. And I'm going to share that with you at a certain point in the house here. So just keep that in mind. We'll deal with it in a few minutes. So let's go inside. Now before we do, a couple of housekeeping things. Number one, the King family has asked us not to allow any picture taking inside the home. If you have a camera or anything else that takes pictures, please